love me.
Viewer discretion is advised. This case contains references abandoned locations, childlike apparitions, and psychological unease. No dramatization, no embellishment. Only what has been reported. Pull the shadows closer. Steady yourself. Take a breath. And remember, you're not alone now. Welcome to tonight's true paranormal case. Presently being investigated, I present to you case number C998H00, the Hollowling of Cabrini High School. This case file compiles witness testimony, historical anomalies, and behavioral patterns tied to the former Cabrini High School site. What remains unclear is whether the Hollowling was once human, or something that learned to wear the shape of one. Entity, changeling, black-eyed orphan child manifestation, born not of evil, but from abandonment. Most people believe places remember love, laughter in hallways, footsteps rushing towards something better. But places remember neglect far better. They remember what was withheld, what was promised and never returned, what learned to wait quietly and learned too well. Tonight's case does not begin with violence. There are no screams, no headlines, no sudden moment anyone thought to stop. It begins with silence, with doors that closed gently and never reopened. With rooms where voices were lowered, then forgotten. With a child who learned, far too early, that being wanted and being kept are not the same thing. Some children cry when they are left behind. Others adapt. They make themselves smaller, quieter, easier to overlook, and sometimes they do not leave at all. Records from Cabrini High School note nothing unusual. No deaths officially logged. No missing persons report that ever reached a conclusion. Just an absence that settled into the building like dust, unremarked, undisturbed, and eventually unseen. Investigators would later describe the presence as passive, not hostile, not aggressive, simply waiting. They gave it a name only after it was too late to pretend it wasn't there. This is the case of Olive, an entity known to investigators as the Hollowling of Cabrini High School. Cabrini High School in New Orleans was not always a school. In 1892, an orphanage was founded here to shelter Italian immigrant children abandoned by poverty, illness, and the river that claimed so many lives. The original French Quarter location overflowed almost immediately. Too many children, too much grief, confined to too little space. By 1905, the orphanage relocated to Esplanade Avenue, and in 1959, it closed entirely. The building became a high school, but the chapel remained, stone walls left standing, as if the prayers had not yet finished. Long before lockers lined the halls, there was a child the records only partially remembered. Her name was Olive. She arrived without a surname, possibly without a name at all, until someone decided she needed one. A Criollo child, olive brown skin, eyes too watchful for her age. She was adopted briefly. By a grieving couple who had recently buried their only child. What they wanted was quiet, obedience, a presence that would fill the space without asking for love. Olive tried. Cruelty does not always bruise the skin. She was fed last, spoken to least, corrected often. When she reached for affection, she was reminded, gently, coldly, that she was temporary, replaceable. Months later, she was returned to the orphanage, thin, silent, eyes already too empty. The doll returned with her, pressed tight against her chest. Its face turned outward, as if watching the world Olive no longer could. It was the only thing she was allowed to keep, the only thing she chose. At night, after gaslights dimmed and the dormitory quieted, Olive whispered to it, not play, not stories, fragments. Apologies, questions she no longer expected answered. When she whispered certain words, the candle flame bent inward.
Why won't they love me?
Shadows behind her bed thickened, clinging to her shape, as if remembering her. That was when the listening began. The hollowing, it did not speak. It learned. The mattress dipped beside her at night. Floorboards creaked. Three slow beats. Whenever her breathing grew uneven, it did not hurt her. It studied her. And little by little, it hollowed her out. Her laughter went first, then her anger. Then fear. What remained was stillness, obedient, pale, easy to overlook. It stored her, not as a body, but as an imprint. Her voice settled into the doll's hollow chest. Her shape lingered in its limbs. Even her name sank into the cracks of its face. When there was nothing left for the orphanage to lose, the Hollowling closed itself around what it had gathered. What remained was not a girl, but a place where one had been. A hollowling is not a ghost. It is an absence given form. A changeling manifestation that wears the outline of a soul that once existed, convincing, familiar, incomplete. It feeds on attention, on grief, on loneliness. By the time the difference is noticed, there is nothing left to return. Decades later, Cabrini High School had shed the word orphanage, but not its bones. Room 214 sat near the preserved chapel. Lights flickered half a second too late. Sound died before it reached the walls. A literature teacher named Miss LeBlanc found the doll in a storage room. Beside it lay a photograph. A child clutching the same doll. The resemblance was unmistakable. That night, Miss LeBlanc dreamed of a little girl at the foot of her bed. Black eyes, endless.
My name is Olive,
The girl said.
Will you love me?
The activity never occurred during full classes, only during the margins of the day. After-school tutoring, detention, study hall overflow. A chalk stick rolled across a desk and broke cleanly in two. A shape appeared beneath desks. Small, folded, hiding. And once, during detention, a figure sat hunched in the back row. When it raised its head, the eyes were black, not shadowed. Black. Crying echoed from empty bathroom stalls. Miss LeBlanc grew attached to the doll, brushing dust from its dress, speaking to it without realizing she had begun.
Now isn't that much better?
When she retired, permission was granted for her to take it home. That was when ownership transferred. The building let it go willingly. It had already taught the thing how to survive elsewhere.
You will be happy here.
She was not taken. She was emptied. Slow, drained by days that demanded more than she could show. A child folded inward, gently bent, until nothing resisted, nothing meant, until even her sorrow learned the art of holding its breath and leaving the heart. Each unanswered need became a hollow. Each kindness withheld left a seam, and something patient slipped inside, studying silence, learning how absence breathes. It learned her stillness. It learned her fear. The way a child survives, by disappearing near. It wore her shape the way grief does. Not sudden, not loud, but familiar enough to be allowed. And when she was gone, not vanished, but thinned, what remained was a place something else could live in. So, If you hear a voice that speaks your name too well, that echoes your loneliness, like it's always known where you fell, do not answer, do not let it stay. Some things do not want love. They want to be kept, so they never have to be sent away. This has been Case File C998H00, The Hollowling of Cabrini High School. The Hollowling still remains active. Its anchor object is uncontained. Its method unchanged. It does not chase. It waits. And if this case disturbed you, if the idea of being seen felt too familiar, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. This file remains open, and somewhere, something is still practicing how to be a child well enough that no one will ever send it away again.
This silence used to be peace. Now it's a grave. Woke up in ruins with nothing to say. Ash in the air, and time in decay. The faces I knew, all hollow, all gone. Eyes like mirrors that reflect no one. They smiled with teeth, but no soul beneath. This world wears skin like a wreath. Through cities that forgot their names, streets where the shadows whisper blame. The liars, the saints, the ghosts of disguise, they danced in dust with vacant eyes. I reached for a hand, found only bone. Even the demons left me alone. Where do you go when nothing is real? Where even your scream forgets how to feel? Alone with echoes, nothing to hold. The fire's out and the world's grown cold. They wore their kindness like masks to kill, and left behind hearts they couldn't fill. Alone with echoes where silence thrives, buried in the ruins of better lives. They weren't people, just shapes mimicking love. And I was one of them before I opened my eyes. Sounds of collapse like the fall of a broken heaven. Alone with echoes, truth tastes like rust, choking on dreams turned into dust. This is the graveyard of everything real, a silence too loud for hearts to heal. No voices left to chase, just echoes and the space they use.